Want to go deeper with Lobbing Scorchers? You know, scratch under the surface, get down even dirtier than we already get? Become a YouTube member. Sometimes things just get a little too spicy, a little too weird, and a little too loose for the general public. And you know, the people to see that are YouTube members. We're talking about exclusive bonus videos, the podcast after show, exclusive written content, and little bits and pieces of information before the unwashed masses know about it. As a member, you not only get access to all of this amazing content, you get a badge next to your name and a slew of amazing emotes to use, not only in our live stream chat, but also in our comments section. And yes, we do have an emote for Jesus Ferreira, Go Snack, and Paul Rothrock. This is the best way to help keep us independent and keep us building out this crazy YouTube brand that we call Lobbing Scorchers. Hit the join button down below or hit the link in the top of our description if you're on mobile to join the ranks and become a Lobbing Scorchers YouTube member.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff. I'm Ari. That's Nico. We got a good show for you all planned here this morning. We're going to be talking Seattle Sounders versus Sporting Kansas City, a 5-2 win for Seattle, a Moose hat trick, a Danny Leyva at the number 10, a Snyder Beagle, a lot going on that I'm excited to catch up with you on, Nico. And then we're going to be talking some Leagues Cup semis. Seattle now heads to Los Angeles, thriving metropolis of Carson, California, to take on the LA Galaxy in the Leagues Cup semis. We're going to be previewing that matchup. We're going to bust out the lineup builder and talk about how Seattle should line it up. Nico, how are you doing this morning, man? Thanks for hopping on.
Hey, what's going on, Ari? Lobbing Scorchers audience. Happy to be here, especially after a big win, a great win there by the Seattle Sounders. If you take in consideration what Brian Schmetzer and the Seattle Sounders were able to do by giving their starters some well-due needed rest and still losing no part of their identity, their style of play, and coming across pretty strongly over Sporting Kansas City.
Your dog is happy about it, as I can hear in the background.
Yes,
he's very excited about the rotation. Loved the Danny Leyva at the number 10 tactics. So that's just another benefit from the win. Yeah. Let's get into it. But before we do all that, please, everyone, like the video, sub to the channel, buy our hot sauce at lobbingscorchers.com/sauce, and follow us on all social media platforms, including Instagram and TikTok. All right, Nico. Yeah, let's talk about this Sporting Kansas City game to start. As always, if you guys have questions, topics, agendas, observations, grievances, feel free to drop them in chat. We'll get to as many as we can. But yeah, let's start with the lineup, because this was the game where, you know, we've been projecting all these rotated lineups, and then the 11 comes out and it's the same 11 that they usually run. The Christian Obed double pivot never goes anywhere. Christian did start this game, but he only went 45 minutes, so he actually did get some rest. Snyder B got the start, and that went very well. Danny Leyva, like we mentioned, started at that number 10 spot, that more advanced role. I thought that looked phenomenal. Moose had a hat trick, but I guess Nico, what was your reaction when you saw the lineup come out and it was actually rotated, and then how did it end up playing compared to how you thought it would when you saw it? Because I was happy to see it, but I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I definitely didn't think it was going to drop 5 goals.
I was excited when I first saw the lineup, and of course we are there on the day-to-day basis, so we had an idea of how much rotation there was going to be to that team. I thought that, and I had said this on Friday, that I thought specifically Obed Vargas needed a rest, and if it wasn't physical, it was mental. And I thought it was going to maybe be Danny, and you keep Ferreira at the 10. But as the person who brought up the Danny at the 10 for the very first time here, and you're welcome, Brian Schmetzer. Yes, I think that it worked phenomenal. So I was happy to see him start there. I was excited to see Kehlani and Georgie having that duo at the wings, because we have seen Kehlani play there before. And although perhaps a guy that has been thought of as a guy that has a lot of those wheels and has that maximum effort and can play pretty good defensively. And Brian has used them in cameos there to uh, kind of play higher pressure and pick up the ball defensively a little bit higher up the field. He has shown that he could play those inside channels extremely well. I think he has great instincts overall, and so I was excited to see that. But mainly, I was excited about Bernell. Right, Snyder Bernell is a guy that we've been high on. That, as I mentioned during our last episode, my highest praise is that he's a guy that is always in the right position, that sees the game well beyond his 18 years old of age. Right, he's a guy that is cerebral. And although I think that the biggest difference between him and Obed when they first came on the scene is that Obed maybe was more dynamic on the ball. It was more dynamic in general. I think Snyder has a huge potential. So I was excited to see him play there. I was a little bit concerned defensively, seeing both Cody Baker and Reed Baker Whiten on the opposite end. Reed Baker usually playing on the left. He was playing on the right. And that kind of proved to be not the best part of this game. But I was excited. I thought that it was important to rotate. I've been saying that at some point, Brian was going to have to play the kids. We all wanted to see Georgie get more minutes. So in terms of my general thought process, when I first saw the lineup that could be, and then once it was officially put out there, I was excited about it. I wanted to see it, even if the game would have been more difficult and maybe even a draw. I was very for getting all of this guys' minutes. Absolutely everyone who was on the starting lineup, I felt like it was important to see them and see them at specific positions, including a guy like Cody Baker that had been an afterthought for quite some time. And, we see him practicing, we see him working hard, but he just didn't really have a spot. And it was good to see him, even though, he had some ups and downs during the game. I was excited. So that's in a nutshell what was going through my mind initially going into this game.
Yeah, Nico, there's been so much talk about the this last transfer window. Seattle didn't make any moves, fourth straight window, blah blah blah. They did make a move. They signed a young up and coming central midfielder who has played 2 games. Seattle's new signing of the transfer window has 2 goals in his first 2 appearances in MLS. How exciting is that? I've been doing this bit. It's not very popular. But in all seriousness, it is a new addition to the squad rotation. And I get no one is gonna count it. They want an outside the league, but the effect is the same. If you get a new player in the rotation that's meaningfully contributing, and he's literally getting on the score sheet faster than I've ever seen Sounders homegrown since Jordan Morris. And I kind of put that in a different category. So the Snyder B thing is, I don't expect anyone to get as excited about it as they would for a signing that comes from outside the league. That's not like an internally brought up addition to the first team, but you should be excited about it. We've talked a lot about Obed's potential transfer this year. And that, I think we all still expect that to happen eventually. And should that be the case, to have another homegrown coming up at the same position who already looks very dynamic, who's already getting on the score sheet and really just looking like he fits the identity and the tactics and all that. It's pretty cool to watch. I've been having fun seeing Snyder B break in every time he scores, or the 2 times that he's scored, the whole team goes crazy. So that is very cool, and it's fun. And I mean, hopefully we get to see him a lot more. I know we'll get to see him a lot more between now and the rest of the season here. What did you like about what you saw on offense? Obviously, Moose gets the hat trick. You can't argue with another 5 goals. It was good to see after they got trolled, they got shut out the previous 2 games going into this game after scoring 26 in their 8 before that. They get on track with another 5 spot. A lot of these crooked score lines, big goal games so far in the last month or 2 here. What did you see last night that was working in attack?
So just real quick, let me just reference what you mentioned earlier. I mean, look, Snyder Bernell is a guy that we've had on our radar for a couple of years, going back to every single time we've been lucky enough to, one way or another, see the Marbella trainings. And I'm a guy that talks to a lot of senior players every single time they're coming from a preseason camp like that. And Snyder Bernell was always a name that came up. Because of his IQ, because of his movement, the commitment to play the position adequately, meaning just the way he closes down space, the effort, listening to senior players when it comes to criticism, right? Productive criticism is something that is difficult for young players, and he's always seemed to have the right idea of how to get better, how to progress, how to develop. So he's a guy that's been coming up, and that's something that is part of the Sounders foundation. It's one of the pillars. It's one of the things that Jeremiah and I have highlighted this whole year, right? I mean, if you go, and that's why I found it interesting that, you know, when we were putting out our frustrations from the last episode about not the Sounders' inability to sign a U22 striker, some people were like, "Oh, you guys don't really think about the talent and the way that you would develop it." No, that's not it. We see that as a base that is a sustainable talent that the Snyder Sounders have done. I think that the biggest fingerprint or footprint that was left by Garth Lagerwey was the amount of money that was put into the academy and the development. And ever since 2016 moving on, look, the amount of players that have developed through the pipeline of the Seattle Sounders system. So all the people that had an issue with the Craig Weibel's cooking, you just might have bad taste and all of that stuff, those are the people that really should be shutting up right now and they should realize that Craig Weibel did a great job of putting together a very good group, and that includes a lot of the Seattle talent and a lot of the Paul Rothrocks who we here at Lobbing Scorchers have gone all far and beyond to make sure people knew who he was about. The guys like Georgie and of course Snyder Bernell, the Obets, all those guys are part of what the Seattle Sounders have done for a bunch of time, and why we think that if you were to add a lot more commitment into getting certain players, it would take them to the next level. So I just wanted to clarify that because it is something that was kind of bothering me. Now, in terms of this game, the first thing that took me into the game and just like made me stop what I was doing, maybe watch it a second time, was Georgie. Right from the very first minute, he was on top of Sporting Kansas City. He's a guy whose explosiveness, defiantness on the ball makes him a struggle for any defense, right? He's someone that is going to be committed. I think that he's gotten a lot better at understanding his moments, at keeping his space, specifically when it comes to pressing moments, those triggers. I think that he's gotten a lot better at tracking back. And so for me, that was the first thing. I know that the big storyline is going to be Moose's hat trick, and you know he's a poacher, and when a poacher is hot, you got to continue to play him, right? And we'll talk about Musovski here in a little bit, but what I thought was the biggest, most interesting, most important part of this entire game was the midfield play, including the wingers, right? I mean, when you look at what Danny Leyva was able to do, occupying those pockets on the left side, linking up, switching the ball, switching the point of attack. He gets, I think it was 2 secondary assists. He creates the PK. I thought that
2 secondary, 1 primary, and creates the PK.
1 primary and the PK. So he was a guy that was part of every single one of these goals. He's a guy that in set pieces, and we asked him this right before this game. That was my question. That if set pieces was a way that he would get more minutes, because Danny Leyva is another guy that has been in the back burner for a little bit, and it's good to see him kind of get a position that I think would allow Brian Schmetzer to use him a little bit more, especially when Brian's been so happy with Ferreira playing that right winger position. So I think this is amazing. And he played phenomenal. It could be his best game. I thought that he had a very good game against Santos Laguna as well. But in this one, getting on the stat sheet, I think, was important for him. He's still looking for his first goal, and I think it's coming. But when it comes to being in the stat sheet, I thought that was big for him. He is by far one of the best set piece takers in this team. And we've all known this. It's just that he hasn't been able to really get on the field. But I thought he was phenomenal. Bernell, just in the first goal that Kehlani puts away, I counted 12 passes in the series of possession, the possession spell. Bernell actually starts by picking up a ball at the beginning of that play. And then he's the one that takes his space, sees Manungu on the left side, plays him on, and then Manungu puts in the ball that ultimately gets to Kehlani, gets saved, and then Kehlani, being Kehlani, just is hungry. He's a hunter. He's there. He's not going to let it go, and it puts the ball away in great fashion. So I just thought Snyder Bernell in the midfield was impressive. He was a guy that fits the part. And obviously having Christian Roldan allows him to do a lot of things and frees him up a lot, but it's just the instincts and is the ability to control the game that I really like from Bernell. So for me, Georgie, Leyva, and Bernell were the real story of this game, in my opinion, specifically for the offense.
All players that were brought up through the team's internal development system. Mm-hmm. I thought the coolest moment of the night was watching Georgie set up Snyder Bernell. That's got to be Henry Bronner's freaking dream to see stuff like that. Let's talk about this one in chat from Wade, because I think this is a worthwhile topic. He says, to be fair, Ari, this isn't a very strong SKC side. Should have won this game with our bench, no problem. Glad we got the win. I'm gonna tell you guys why a win like this should not be taken for granted. Because like, yes, you would think so. The Sporting KC is one of the worst teams in the league this year. They're not nearly on the level that Seattle is in 2025. But another thing that I know is that I've been watching this club play in CONCACAF Champions Cup for years. And I've been watching a lot of MLS clubs try and juggle CONCACAF Champions Cup with their league season for years. And the way that usually goes, because of how MLS rosters are structured and the rules and restrictions and all that, is that it doesn't matter when you're juggling tournaments and you're rotating if your opponent is inferior. How many times have we watched Seattle play in CONCACAF Champions Cup, and when they have to rotate, even when it's inferior opposition, the games are horrible to watch. It's like a brutal 0-0 for 83 minutes, and then they lose 1-0, and we all go, like, unfortunate result, but that's sort of just the cost of doing business with CONCACAF Champions Cup. You had to rotate, and it basically becomes this situation where it's not just Seattle. MLS clubs are just functionally punting games in the league because they have to save their capital, save their best lineups for the tournament that they're juggling. That has been the case for the Seattle Sounders. It's been the case for most MLS teams that you could name when they're in situations where they have to juggle competitions and rotate. A result like that is not a given just because you're playing a team that's bad. Not when you have to make 8 changes, where pretty much every MLS team, if you make 8 changes, the 11 you put out there is not going to be able to score 5 goals. In a lot of cases, it's not going to be able to get a result at all. We have seen that time and again in Champions Cup over the years with this team. So it's not a result or performance that should be taken for granted just because of inferior opposition. And I think in fact it's the opposite. It's the demonstration that you can be in a situation where you have to juggle competitions and rotate, and you still perform at the level that your first choice 11 had been playing. So like the premise that that it doesn't count because it was Sporting KC and they should be handled easily, that's just not, it's just not usually how it goes. And it should take nothing away from how impressive a performance that was, the opposition, because I've seen this very team struggle and lose games in situations like this a lot. So the fact that they didn't do that is very encouraging, and I think reflective of the type of depth that we're talking about here. Nico, any thoughts on that?
I would add that they were dominant. I mean, it wasn't just that they handled them easily, and that shouldn't be the case when, as you mentioned, you are making that many changes because you expect a little bit of a fall in terms of either possession or execution or movement or building out of the back. And if you look at this game, and from the very beginning, as I mentioned, Georgie in the first 5 minutes had 2 balls into the 18 to Danny Musovski that could have very easily gone in the back of the net. I mean, their build out was great. I thought that Jay Bell and Yamar and even Cody Baker helping build out of the back were very good. They were inviting Sporting Kansas City to come and press, and they were passing right through them. I thought that their ability to move and shift and basically play at their will and generate tempo and everything that they wanted to do, they were able to do. So whenever you do that, it has to be impressive. When you can rotate and be that good and do everything that you wanted out of that game, I think it's impressive. So I don't like to do this because I don't like comparing team to team, because I've always said that soccer is not linear and it's very circumstantial. But go look at Orlando. They rotated and they ate up 5.
How did that go?
How did that go?
They were playing a much better team, but they still, you would not expect them to get worked like that. They gave up 5 goals, got absolutely destroyed.
But then Miami, they played out a bad team, a very bad team in DC United. They rotated and they barely drew that game.
What happened to Miami? That's what usually happens. They literally played the team that's wooden spooning right now. DC United, I think, is bottom of the league table. Inter Miami had to rotate for the Leagues Cup semis, just like Seattle did. They tied DC 1-1. If Seattle had tied Sporting KC 1-1 in this game, I would have been like, yeah, that's how it goes. We would be on here being like, all right, yeah, it sucked, but the Leagues Cup semis are the priority. It's whatever. Those are kind of games that you have to punt in these situations.
Maybe it wouldn't have sucked. It would have been like, oh man, I'm glad I got to see Snyder. I got to see Danny play the 10. And a draw is a draw. You got a point, right? Inter Miami rescued that draw. I mean, it's a golazo.
That was an insane goal. That was sick.
By Baltasar.
Yeah.
And it was a phenomenal goal. They rescued that draw. They were losing the majority of the game. So that's what I mean by...
They got dunked on by someone named Jackson Hopkins. That's what happened in Inter Miami.
Yeah, it was a good goal.
No disrespect. I just barely...
No, it was a great goal too. Yeah, he the way he just brings it down and puts it away was a good goal. But that's exactly what I mean. I like to provide a little bit of perspective sometimes, and that helps some of our audience. So it's not as easy as it seems. I think you got to give a lot of credit to this team that is very deep, that, as Brian mentioned, even during the press conference, that the fact that all these players play together, practice together, they have the same notions. I mean, that is why you get that sort of familiarity and that maybe cohesiveness that you don't see in other teams when you're rotating this heavily.
Matt coming in with our first super chat of the morning. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you getting the train rolling. He says, my work laptop's random background this morning is a zoomed in picture of a moose. Something's in the air, y'all. Moose hat trick. That's what's in the air. Moose hat.
Yeah, let's talk about Moose. Let's talk about Moose. Sorry.
Well, I mean, it was good to see him bounce back from the unfortunate red card that has him suspended for the rest of Leagues Cup. Not Moose's finest moment, but that's how you want to see him bounce back. He does get the Hattie with the penalty at the end there, but he also his first goal came in a pretty big spot because Seattle had just they had conceded an equalizer about like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes before that. And they were about to go into half with it tied 1-1 in kind of disappointing fashion. RBW sets him up for that first header. And then he smashes home the Danny Leva corner kick for the second one. And then the penalty right at the end. Moose is up to 13 goals in the league. Is it 15 all comps or 14?
I think it's 15.
I think it's 15 all comps. Moose might become the first Sounders player in club history to hit 20 goals for. It looks like he's going to hit that at this point, which is. I mean, I don't really know what to say about it at this point. He's literally like, if they had like signed a Raul replacement, like a lot of people wanted them to, and not have Jordan leading the line this year. And whoever it is had 15 all comps, 13 in 1,300 minutes in league play. Everyone would be like, yeah, that's why you go sign a DP freaking number 9. He's literally producing at that clip this season. I don't know what to do with that information. I don't know what to tell all you to do with that information. All I know is what I see on the field every week and on the stat sheet. And I see the most efficient number 9 in the entire league right now, as far as the amount of goals he's scoring for the minutes that he's getting. It's unreal. You know, he is a very specific type of number 9, like you said, kind of that poacher number 9. It's not like he's not necessarily going to bring you like all this stuff off the ball or in build up or in hold up necessarily, but he's gonna, if he gets looks in front of goal, he's gonna convert them. And I mean, I guess it really is. And I guess my question, we were kind of talking about it on the post-game live last night a little bit, but like, is there any way they're able to keep him next year? Because someone's going to give him a bag like off this type. He's earning himself a lot of money right now.
He's gonna want a bag, and it is a conundrum. I will say that I'm still a guy that I need to see.
You're a Moose skeptic.
I've always been, right? And I'm very consistent with the way I handle my analysis, because the things that I don't like or I feel like he lacks, he still lacks. I mean, everything you just said, he absolutely lacks. There's times in this game where he'll make a run on the ball and you know he's not going to make it, and then he gets dispossessed and you're like, I wonder why he did that, because he's trying to do other stuff, but he just
I would argue that's a little bit of a similar attribute to Rui Diaz, though. Like, Rui Diaz offered a little more maybe in terms of combination play, but like he was very much a type of striker that would be like, you might not hear from him for 82 minutes in a game, and then he pops up with like an amazing goal. But like,
yeah, Moreau was a guy that could finish it with his left, with his right. He do it mid-range. Yeah. You know, it's just the tools that a striker has, right? That he could beat you off a dribble. Maybe not all the time, but he would beat you off the dribble. He'll give you with the sombrero, and
he's a way more dynamic finisher.
Skillful, right? Is the skillful component of it. So, and poachers are poachers. Look, Javier Chicharito Hernandez, by no means was he like an incredibly technical player or skillful in the sense that he was going to just beat you on the dribble, but he made a career about being a poacher. So being a poacher is great. My skepticism with Danny Musovski is the longer, broader history of his career, right? He's having a career here, and it's great. It's phenomenal. I love it. I think that maybe he found it, right? But it'd be hard for me to commit money to Musovski off of 1 year of having this sort of like incredible performance, right? So it's difficult to move on, right? When it comes to what else is out there, what can you get? And look, I have no doubt that the Sounders will talk to him, and maybe he doesn't want to move elsewhere because he's found a home.
Someone said they have a team option. Is that, I don't know. Like, do they have an option on him for next year?
Yes, I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure they have an option on him. But do you pick it up, and how much more is he gonna want eventually, or maybe not? Maybe he's not. I got to look for the profile, maybe he's out of contract at the end of this year.
I can't remember.
I can't really remember. Yeah. But the reality is that this year's going to have to be made. And just like you said, if his agent's not asking for a bag, then you got to get you a new agent, right? So it's pretty obvious that coming off of a career year, he's going to want more money. So does he get it elsewhere? Does Seattle commit to him? I still think that there is obviously a nuance to his game that is interesting. If he's proven it to you over a year, that is a lot of database for you to at least be able to give him a raise, right? How much more? I don't know how much money I would be willing to commit to Danny Musovski, especially knowing obviously that Jordan Morris is going to be your guy through 2027, and that's who you are going to be going off of, right? He's going to come in and be your number one. I think it's ludicrous to think that Musovski is going to be Seattle's number one over Jordan Morris, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily the question of if you like build around Moose for the foreseeable future. It's just, it's a question of like, if you have to give him a raise, should you do that, or how much of this is a function of this system seems to be very kind to number nines. Yeah, I mean, Jordan has been banging in goals every time he's played. He's just been injured all year. You got Osaze, who has 3 goals in the last few weeks, and he really could have a few more based on the chances that he's getting within the system. He had a couple last night that he could have had. That one he put into the 27th row from right in front of goal, and then one, God, he made such a sick turn on that guy and then he shanked the shot a little bit. But every number 9 that's been playing this year has been getting chances, has been scoring goals. And with the Moose Hattie, I'm pretty sure they have 20 combined goals. Or let's see, Jordan has 4, Moose has 15. Oh, sorry, they have 22 goals, chat. 22 goals from the number 9 position this year. That is elite production, any way you slice it. So the fact that Moose, like a kind of cast-off veteran before he got here, and Osaze, a pretty kind of random homegrown, are 2 of the guys scoring those goals. I don't really care who's scoring them as long as they're going in. So it'll be an interesting calculation, because we were talking about this last night too. There are a few guys on this team that are outperforming the money that they're making. Moose is one of them. Paul Rothrock is another. Everyone's a team guy. Everyone's a team guy. But at the end of the day, if you're a guy like Paul Rothrock or a guy like Danny Musovski, you're looking around the league and you're Danny Musovski and you're like, wait a minute. I have more than twice the goals of Emmanuel $22 million Latte Loth. Why is this man making 11 times my salary? It's something that he's gonna wonder, like anyone would. And there's a finite amount of time you have to maximize this stuff as an athlete. And it would be stupid not to try and get everything you can out of it, especially like when you're having a season like Moose, where you got 15 goals all comps. Like that's he's providing one of the most valuable assets that every club is chasing right now, which is volume goal scoring. So I mean, well, though these are more off-season questions, but they are real questions that are going to have to be dealt with. Nico, I know you have to get out of here at 45 today. So anything else on the game last night before we hit this lineup builder and talk about how Seattle should do this in LA on Wednesday?
No, just Kehlani is the other guy that I just find extremely interesting. He's a guy that a lot like Paul Rothrock gets the same not stigma, but you kind of assume that the reason why he's out there is because he has that P&W effort and engine and stuff. But man, there was a couple of plays yesterday where he brings down the ball with his shoulder, directing it, putting it ahead of himself, the way he moves, the spaces he gets to, the shot he put away with no angle and as close as he did to put it where he put it. A lot of his passing. I was very impressed by Kehlani. He's a guy that I think maybe I'm very excited to see his progression over the next couple of years, because he's a guy that just seems to have all the tools, from the attitude, the swag,
Yeah.
because he has it. He has that, maybe like, I don't know, it was like that Maui, like swag. He just has it. And the way he plays the game with a chip on his shoulder, and he is just big and strong, and just, man, I just feel like there is a lot to Kehlani's game that I'm very curious to see. At one point I thought he was just going to be mainly a wing back, but seeing him get better and better at winger is very interesting. He's a different type of winger, but I absolutely love it. And then finally here, I would think that Danny Musovski is going to be a guy that's going to get a lot of good services this year. And I'll say that until Jordan gets back, I mean, he has that starting spot on. I mean, it's his. I like that Brian Schmetzer said, look, he's not out of my doghouse just yet. But
that's a good way to start getting out of the doghouse. That's
a great way, right? So I like the fact that, as always, Brian just bringing it all down. It's like he had a hat trick, but let's not forget he's still in the doghouse. So I thought those two things were interesting.
Yeah, if you they're getting out of the doghouse, as we saw with Nuhu, it's a multifaceted process. It takes more than one game, but scoring a hattie in your first game post doghouse, that's pretty good. All right, Nico, let's talk some Leagues Cup semifinals before you jet. Seattle going into LA on Wednesday, earned themselves some rest. I guess a more charged up lineup through the lineup they were able to put out in this game. And someone mentioned it earlier, I meant to hit on it. The Galaxy rotated as well against the Rapids and absolutely destroyed the Rapids. They should have been running that lineup all year. That looked like a way better team. Like, what was going on with that? Like, I think Greg Vanny finally solved it. They should have saved that lineup for Leagues Cup. They had their version of Snyder Bernell, some guy named Harbor Miller, coming in and getting his first MLS goal. They had a lot of their young guys out. They had Winder out there. I think he got a goal. It was a totally rotated LA side against what I imagine was a pretty first choice Colorado side, who felt like they had a chance to get a result, and the Galaxy smashed on them. So they're feeling good. And I would say in general, I don't expect this to be like a 4-0 massacre like Seattle's game there a week or two ago. Like, I think the Galaxy are going to be up for this. They're going to make it competitive, and Seattle's going to have to put it in this game to get a result. Before we bust out the lineup builder, I gotta say this might be sour grapes, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it anyway. It's silly that they have hosting rights for this. It is silly. They've been the worst team in the goddamn league all year. They don't deserve to be hosting this game. The team that should be hosting this game is the team that finished number 1 out of all 36 clubs in phase 1 of this tournament. Seattle should have this game at home. I don't know what we're talking about, having the MLS Cup winner from last year have hosting rights for the whole tournament, the whole thing. Like, where does that that is out of left field. All right. So
the whole ranking before the tournament is odd. It's a very FIFA thing to use the power rankings of usually it's the national teams.
What even
are seems a lot easier
rankings
to do.
How do they calculate that? I want to see the formula on that.
Yeah, it's Opta. Opta is the one that puts it together. But it is a little bit odd, right? And it is funny that the Sounders should host, right? If obviously Orlando or Inter Miami were to win, I think that Seattle would host that final, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah. I just remember it all goes off of the ranking going into this tournament, which just seems odd because, like you said, they've been awful.
It's a good bit. It's dreadful. A good bit that they get like full hosting rights for the whole tournament. They might get into CCC, and they have been the literal worst team in the league for a not insignificant portion of this seain. But all right, let's.
But they look good against Colorado, man. Like you said, it was interesting watching them play. I will say that they looked a lot better once Paintsol and Marcus Rios came into the game. But credit to the young guns for putting it on Colorado. That regardless of what they do, they just seem to not quite convinced, right? They got rid of, obviously, they were not got rid of, but they had to let go of Georgie Mihailovic, and they still go and get some top players, and they still can't figure it out. So it's tough.
All right, Nico, got the lineup builder right here. We got 5 minutes to get through this. So I think there's a lot of this that's straightforward, but as we know, Moose will not be playing in this game. Famously, he won't be playing in the next game after that if Seattle advances. So that, I think, is really the main thing to talk about, like how they should line up that front four. But let's go through it. We're gonna have Nuhu on the left here. Little Jackson Reagan right here. Little Yamar right there. Little Alex Roldan right there. Alex Roldan D mid. We didn't talk about that. Started a little bit rough, but then I thought it went pretty well. We're gonna do the Christian Obed double pivot, obviously. But okay, Mika, let's talk about the front four here. I mean, I think obviously De La Vega is one.
Yep.
And then, I mean, it's going to be Rothrock on the other side now, or
yep.
So really, the debate is right here. Do you start Osaze up top, or do you do false nine Ferreira? Maybe run that Danny Leyva at the 10 again. I think this is a good debate based on how Danny Leyva looked in this game. I don't know if Schmetz would want to run something that's still relatively unfamiliar in a game with stakes like this. But it I don't know. I've been a little bit torn on how I feel about it, but I'll put in how I would do it, and we'll see if you agree. I don't know if you're going to agree, but I would start Osaze, man. I would. That's how I would do it. I would do Ferreira here and Osaze here. And then if it's like really not working, offense looks bad, you can't score, then you can change it. You can do a subs at half if you need to. Schmetz has been a little bit better about pulling the trigger on these things earlier. But this is how I would do it. Do you see it? We'll fiddle with the other looks, but do you see that differently?
Nope. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't think that there's much of a secret of what Brian wants to do. I think that he's a guy that doesn't like to make one too many changes of players, and specifically for this game, I think he's going to want to see Jesus behind the 9, but I think he'll have Danny Leyva slotted first in that bench. If it's not working and Osaze is not finding the back of the net, or things are not going the way he wants it, then I would think that he brings in Danny Musovski in and brings Ferreira
Danny Leyva
and play the 9.
You said Musovski, Danny Leyva.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think he brings in.
He will not be bringing in Danny Musovski, as we know.
No, I think Danny Leyva will be first on the bench to just come in, and you slide up Ferreira, and then you play with Danny at the 10. Because I'm with you. I think that from set pieces, which, to be honest, Jesus had been pretty good at delivering the set pieces, but in the last game against Minnesota, I thought that he struggled a bit there. So Danny does provide that for you, where he's a guy that can really put some very good set pieces in. So I think he'd be a guy that you want to have ready to go. But I do think that he'll start it off like this. I don't think there's any questions to anybody else in that lineup at all. And Pedro de la Vega is a guy that you knew that he was going to get a lot of rest in this one, because hopefully they play him 90. I mean, that's one thing that I want to see. I just want to see Pedro go through an entire game. I absolutely hate the fact that they continue to take him off the games. In this one, I hope that he goes 90. I hope Ferreira goes 90, especially if what we're talking about is part of the concepts going into this game. Is if this doesn't work, this is going to be our backup. So yeah, I think Ferreira is another guy that's going to have a big game. But all in all, man, obviously I got to go here, but this game, once again, regardless of the improvements that the Galaxy have made, I feel like it plays to Seattle's attributes. I feel like they match up very well against the Galaxy, unless Greg surprises Brian with some sort of wrinkle in his usual system, and I don't see that happening. Does he decide to bunker in a little bit? Does he want to play him off the counter? I mean, that'd be pretty interesting if he did that. But if the LA Galaxy play the way they've been playing, the way Vanny plays, I think that Seattle has a very good percentage of winning this game. I regardless of whether it's at LA or not, I think Seattle's the better team, that in better form, and they'll get this game no problem. And I'm sorry about my dog; he freaked out today. I don't know what happened today.
He's very excited about the victory over Sporting Kansas City. He thinks Danny Leyva at the number 10 is the future, and he's vocalizing his opinion on it. So I respect it.
I think so too. I think he's a Danny Leyva fan out there because he's just getting crazy. But thanks as always, Ari. I really appreciate it. Last thing I'll say is credit to my man Jo for in the Craig Weibel press conference asking all the tough questions, including that last one about the timing on when things started, to try to understand where Craig Weibel was coming from. Where did things go wrong in their scouting, or in when they started to talk to certain players? So if you check out the Craig Weibel press conference, check out all three of Jeremiah's questions were on point. I really wanted to be there. I was unable to do so, but me and him, we were going off of each other's books, and I knew he was going to ask all the right questions, and he did, man. He definitely was the one person that put Craig Weibel to sweat a little bit. So really appreciate that from Jo.
Yeah, absolutely. It's too bad we couldn't get to the Craig Weib's analysis on that this morning. I haven't even watched it yet. I got to the game too late to go as well. But yeah, well said. I'll watch that today. See what I think. Nico, thanks for hopping on as always, man. Appreciate you, and catch you this week. And let's see what happens in the Leagues Cup semis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you want to do one early after the champions, the Leagues Cup semifinal, I'm ready to go.
I'll hit you up about that.
Yep.
We might work that in. All right. Peace.
All right,
man.
Chad. Love y'all. Like the video, man. Let's go.
Later, Nico. All right. Yeah. Early exit for Nico here this morning. So it'll just be me hanging out for the last for the stretch run here. Take some questions, hang out, whatever you guys want to hit, let you steer the ship a little bit. Got a couple super chats. That's how we'll start it off here as I close this one out solo. Jerome says, missed the game, but I have to drop 5 for them boys. Appreciate you, man. $1 for every goal. Another 5 from Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate you. Confident in this tourney if it goes to penalties with Andrew T between the posts. That's right, Andrew T. Andrew T. Got to get used to that. Decided I'm not gonna. I feel like you can't be the guy. If someone says that they don't like a nickname, you can't be the guy who just uses it anyway, in spite of it's like basic, I think, common courtesy. So I don't like the nickname. I had no idea he didn't like the nickname, which it just got so widespread, which I kind of pride myself on Lobbing Scorchers being able to get nicknames that stick. But if he doesn't like Andy T, I'm not going to call him Andy T. What are the Craig W comments? He had a press availability yesterday before the game at Lumen Field. I actually had it pulled up, or I thought I had it pulled up to watch. I'll drop the link in chat for you guys if anyone wants to watch it. He was supposedly grilled a little bit. I haven't even watched this yet, so I don't know what he said. But it's right there. I just dropped it in chat if anyone wants to watch. He talked about the whole transfer window, how nothing got over the line, how he feels about the state of the roster, all that stuff. So I'm going to dive into that probably right after the show here this morning. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking for more of an insight into what was going through his head, how he's spinning the situation, check out that video. between Ohio, Lukovic, or Puksas, which one do you think would have been the best acquisition? Honestly, the only one that I really researched in depth was Noah Ohio. But to me, like this profile of U22 that we're talking about, it's like all relatively a similar guy to me. Like they all are all at like similar junctures in their career. A lot of them have similar kind of paths where they're considered high ups, like potential high upside, but like in Noah Ohio's case, he wasn't breaking into the team for whatever reason. So that's probably why they thought that he might be inclined to make an MLS move, which obviously he turned out not to be. But like you're just taking swings on guys that you think could pop in the future. And it's pretty hard to tell like which ones are more likely to pop than others. It's just a guessing game. But there's swings that like you have the mechanisms to take. So you do need to take them. Like, and that is they can't if they want to say that their targets in this window didn't come off and they weren't going to make a signing just to make one. Okay. But like you do have to fill the spot eventually. And that's you're going to have to, unfortunately, that does require spending money. You do have to do it. You can't, I mean, you can do it for free transfers. But in this case, with the U22, you unfortunately are going to have to spend money to get like a prospect that's worthwhile. So Craig was a little spicy. Honestly, if he was this forthcoming all season, fan base would be way calmer about things. I feel like I have to watch it, but I feel like forthcoming isn't necessarily the issue. It's we were talking about this in the press box last night. Garth was man about town, right? He did hits on my friend Jackson Feltz's radio show every week. He was available all the time. So you kind of just had this constant flow of information where no matter what was going on, Garth was going to be on the record about it. Craig Weibs, he just doesn't do that like Garth did, which, that's his prerogative. As long as they make him available enough times throughout the year. I don't need him to be doing KJR hits every week like Garth was. But it does lead to situations like this where if you don't hear from him for a while and then there's the perception out there that the club is dragging its feet on spending money and making moves. That's where I think that's where the consternation comes in. Will Messi play on turf if we play Miami in the finals? That is a good question. I have to imagine that for a tournament final, he'll have to bite the bullet and do it. But that is one of the things. Like Seattle takes a lot of heat for playing on turf, and visiting teams hate it. It's low key, like it's low key like a weapon because like especially older veteran players, especially guys like that come over from Europe like that, they like really don't want to play on it. I don't know how much I believe in the like turf is the devil and causes injuries at a higher rate than grass. There's no actual like data for that. There's not. People will tell you that there is. There's literally not. There's stuff out there where supposedly like in anecdotal sample sizes, people have this data that they think shows it. I've never seen anything conclusive, like ironclad proof that you're more likely to like take an injury playing on turf than grass. It is harder on your body, like fatigue wise after games. I've heard a lot of players say that, but it's something that I think has become, like a part of the home field advantage of Lumen is that Seattle's players are all used to playing on it. They know how to play on it. And a lot of these visiting teams don't. Inter Miami, they're not playing on turf in Fort Lauderdale. So if Inter Miami makes the Leagues Cup final and they have to play in Seattle and Messi's like, I can't play on turf, then what are we doing? He played at BC Place for CCC. I think you're right. I'm pretty sure he did play at BC Place. I'm not positive on that, but I think he did. I can understand not signing this window, but they cannot have that same excuse for 4 straight summer windows. Yeah. What you can't just not do it forever. The 4 straight windows thing, we were also talking about this in the press box last night. I understand the talking point. I do think that is like what was the term we were using? It's like it's more of a fan talking point than like an actual reality illustration of how the roster of what the roster movement has been like going back to the off season. If they had literally had the exact same roster over that time frame, then yeah. But like you have had moves in that span of time. You had the Ferreira trade, you had the Ryan Kent transfer, you had incoming and outgoing players in that time frame. So while I understand why the 4 straight windows thing is tilting, I don't think it's reflective of I don't think the team is looking at it like that. They're looking at the roster movement holistically and then basing their decisions on that. They're not going to be like, oh, like the timing worked out, so 4 straight summer windows, we didn't do it, so we have to do one now. I wouldn't expect them to look at it like that. But that being said, what I was talking about on the post game live last night with this is that I really think that one of the best arguments that I think to be made in this situation is just simply that like transfer stuff. It's part of the fun of being a soccer fan and following a club. Like you get to hear the rumors, you get to picture in your mind the new player playing in your jersey. Then you get the excitement when they get there. You get to watch them integrating with the team. You get the locker room videos of them high-fiving everybody and like everyone like, hey, it's the new guy. Like that stuff. That is actually a meaningful part of your duty as a soccer team, to give that to your fans, like the excitement of bringing in new players and like being linked to players, bringing them into the team, integrating them to the team. They're obviously first and foremost, the decision should be based on like on-field improvements to your roster, but it's just about like having an exciting product, like we're trying to get better. We got this new guy, like, so that I think that honestly, as much as anything, is the argument that I sympathize with. Like if you're not, if you're just literally never making transfers, you're not giving the people like one of the most fun things about following a club. I don't think that should inform every decision that they make. It's not what I'm saying. But it is something that you got to do sometimes. You got to give that to the people. When is the next transfer window? We could still technically sign any of those potential players in the next one, right? I don't know the exact dates on it, but the next one's the winter one, right? So I think it's like that one is usually like January something is when it opens. It goes to like February or March something. I don't know. I'll have to look up the dates. But like, I mean, yeah, I guess they theoretically could sign one of those players. Maybe Noah Ohio realizes that now is the correct time to move to MLS after all, and he still becomes a Seattle Sound. I don't know. It seems like that ship has kind of sailed. I think I don't know this for a fact, but if I was Seattle in that situation, I would feel like messed with by his people a little bit for it to get that far. And then for him to be like, actually, no. It sounds like his camp was trying to tell him. They were saying, Noah, you should go to MLS. This is it. This is where you build your stock. Like, you're not going to build your stock at FC Utrecht. And he said no. So I don't like, what is there to say or analyze there? Like, it's his decision at the end of the day. It's his career. GMs miss on every budget, but when you have to find distressed assets, you have a higher chance of picking up a player that was passed up by other club for whatever reason, health, fitness, etc. Yeah, like when you're balling on a budget, it makes the hit rate smaller. Like, it just does. Some teams are a lot better at it than others. Like the Philly Union come to mind. Like, they ball on a budget, and it seems like they hit every time on these like distressed assets. And Seattle is very good at it as well. I think Moose is a great example. Moose is like the definition of a kind of distressed asset, or at least a guy that the acquisition was based on projecting underlying numbers and what he had done over a small sample size, over a larger sample size. And like, in that situation, you got to give it to him. They clearly cooked on that. They clearly saw stuff with his data where they were like, if this guy just got a full complement of minutes, he would probably be a 10+ goal scorer. And they were right. He has 15 all comps. Okay, February 21st to April 23rd. I had the dates on that wrong. But according to Jacob, February 21st to April 23rd. That's the next time. Yeah. Pass on Noah Howe. I agree. He had his chance. He didn't want to be here. Like, I don't know if I want a guy that is only bought in when he gets to a point where he feels like it would actually benefit his own career. I want a guy who wants to come to the club and come to the city, and he did. So as far as I'm concerned, like, he had his chance to be a Seattle Sounder and he passed it up, which is fine. But if you go crawling back to him, tail between your legs, you risk bringing in a guy who's just not actually fully bought in. You need whoever it is to be bought in. Philly doesn't win trophies. We shouldn't be looking to emulate them too much. See, I've been bringing up the Philly Union comparison a lot lately, and some people don't like it for this exact reason. I think the fact that they haven't won more trophies, they did get a shield. I see the fact that they haven't won more trophies as like it doesn't take away from the blueprint and the method that they have leading to a lot of success. That I don't know just Seattle, but like, I think a lot of clubs should try and emulate how the Philly Union do it. Clearly, the team that they had in 2022, I get that they didn't win MLS Cup, but like, that was an insane team. That was an insane team. They were built on a budget like the Philly Union always are. They put up a plus 48 goal differential. Seattle's never had a season where they put up a plus 48. I think if there's a critique of Seattle's standing in the league, I think there's not much of one. But it would be fair to point out, like, they haven't had these regular seasons like 2019 LAFC or 2022 Philly Union LAFC, where they push 65, 70 points and put up plus 25, plus 30, that type of goal differential. They haven't had those types of regular seasons. Their last supporter shield was over a decade ago. Their only supporter shield was over a decade ago at this point. And that's something that I think the club should aspire to as they look at what they want the future to look like. One of these years, have a regular season where you're up there fighting for the shield all year. And they really should be this year. They really should be this year, and they would be if not for the crash out red card boys derailing a few of these games and costing them points. If the crash out red card boys hadn't had such an impact on the point total, I think Seattle would be up towards the top of the West. And up with these teams. I mean, the Shield leader, let's take a look. I think they're at 53, 54 points right now. Something like that. Philly's leading the Supporter Shield race, 54 points. Seattle's 10 points off that pace. If you just give them even some of the points that they dropped due to the crash out red card boys, they would be at least be up towards 50. And then, I mean, you have a couple of these games where it wasn't even the crash out red card boys. You had the Charlotte game in the first game of the season where you dropped a couple points when you were literally like 10 seconds away from winning the game. You had the Colorado game where you were ahead 3-0 and somehow managed to drop 2 points, 3-3. If you give them the 4 points dropped just from those two games where no one crashed out and got ejected, they'd be at 48. People are saying that Seattle tried to get Cade Cowell. I had not heard that. That would not do all that much for me emotionally. I don't really even know what's going on with his career. I was a Cade Cowell guy at one point in the sense that he's a physical specimen. He reminds me a little bit of Jordan Morris, honestly, just in like the big, pacey, like when he's running at you, it can be like a freight train type of thing. He just never was able to like become the consistent goal scoring threat that Jordan was. In the Sounder Hard article, they reference USMN player, and the link goes to Cade Cowell's FOBMOB page. I had not heard these. I just don't know. Like, he at one time was considered like a big hotshot USMNT prospect, but I feel like his stock is not that right now. I feel like that's one that people would not be. People want someone like Noah Ohio, who's coming from like the Eredivisie and has no like MLS. I think that's the main criteria for a lot of people is like no MLS affiliation, which I personally don't really value that. It's not a popular take necessarily, I guess. I don't look at the Jesus Ferreira trade like that differently than I do an addition that they made from outside the league. I don't. Like, it's not about if you've played in MLS before or not. It's about your quality and what you can bring on the field. If they brought in a guy of the exact quality of Jesus Ferreira from a different league, what difference does it actually make? You know? It's optics, it's perception. Trading for Jesus Ferreira gets, tabbed as an unambitious player acquisition, but that has nothing to do with his attributes as a player. It doesn't. The only reason it gets tabbed like that is because he played for FC Dallas. It's the exact same thing with Albert Rusnak. The only reason that gets tabbed as unambitious and underwhelming is because he played for Real Salt Lake first. That's the only reason. And, some people might not want to admit that, but there's nothing deeper to the analysis on those two players than that. That is all it is. It is they played in MLS beforehand, therefore they're not like as good as someone who comes from outside the league. That is not true. That is not true. I've been telling people for the last couple years now, literally just pretend that Albert Rusnak didn't play for RSL. Just pretend he didn't play for them. Pretend that didn't happen and that he came right from the Eredivisie where no Ohio plays. That's where he was playing before he went to RSL. Pretend he came right from there. And then there you go. You have like your fancy imported designated player. It's not like, I'm sorry, like I know some people like don't like those points, but that is there's no difference. Jesus Ferreira didn't play in the Eredivisie, but like he was a best 11 player in MLS, and I have no doubt that he is the quality that he could go to a league like that and excel. Like to me, that's obvious if you just watch him play, but maybe it's not obvious to some. Is a second choice striker for a mid Eredivisie team really going to get people excited? Yeah. I agree with how you're framing it. Like for me, it's like it's a random dart throw. It's a swing that has a 50% chance of paying off and a 50% chance of busting. But yes, that does get people excited because he's coming from the Eredivisie. That's why. It's not because of anything about him as a player. It's because he's coming from the Eredivisie, which is, I'm not gonna tell anyone why they should or shouldn't be excited about a certain player. But we shouldn't act like the type of excitement around that type of player is based on what anyone like knows about them and what they bring on the field compared to anyone else. Like it's about the fact that it's about the optics of bringing in a player from a league that people consider, higher level. It's Europe, which is fine, but that we should be honest about that. No one has any idea if Noah Ohio is going to be a good MLS player. I have no idea. No one else has any idea. Weren't both Albert and Noah Ohio also in the Man City pipeline? Yeah, people forget. I don't know about Noah Ohio. People forget that Albert Rusnak started in the Manchester City Academy. Was that because his dad, Albert Rusnak Sr., was coaching their youth sides at the time? Maybe, but honestly, I don't think that matters. Like, I think you probably learn and gain a lot from being in an academy like that. And I think that people undersell Rusnak's actual pedigree, in my opinion, because he played for Real Salt Lake before he came to Seattle. That is the only reason why. This is a guy that, yes, started his career in the Manchester City Academy and played in the Eredivisie at an extremely high level before he came to MLS. Like his pedigree as this like designated player that came over from Europe is real. You can see it in the qualities that he brings week in, week out. So the fact that he played for Real Salt Lake before, and this is the other thing I was going to say about that is like, I really think that there is something to the strategy of acquiring players like Albert Rusnak and Jesus Ferreira, who you already know can produce in the league. It increases the chances of the signing hitting, or the acquisition hitting, by quite a lot. If you eliminate the variable that we see affect some of these imported signings sometimes of adjusting to the league, the travel, the style, and all that. With Albert Rusnak and Jesus Ferreira, you eliminate that variable entirely. You already know that they can play and produce in the league. It makes it less exciting optically because they're coming from inside the league. But in terms of what actually matters, which is their fit on the team and what they produce on the field, you up your chances. And like Seattle's not the only team to do this. Like a lot of the other successful clubs in the league do this. Look at the Columbus Crew. They went out and got Diego Rossi and Daniel Gazdag, two guys that they had already seen provenly produce and excel on other MLS teams. No one's talking about how the Columbus Crew are unambitious for getting Diego Rossi and Daniel Gazdag. Those are smart moves. Gazdag honestly has not really popped for them yet, but Diego Rossi has. It's way smarter to go get a guy like Diego Rossi, who you know can do it, than it is to gamble on a player of the exact same profile that you don't know. The Philly Union, who I just talked about. They did this with, they do this all the time, actually, but Julian Carranza, who he hadn't even popped for Inter Miami when the Philly Union got him. But it's the same idea, right? It's the same idea. You're getting more proven commodities within the league that you don't have to worry about the adjustment and the adaptation as much. I don't know. I think there's like, to me, it's clear that there's something to that. I think it's undeniably proven to come good with Albert Rusnak. If you're talking, take the Galaxy Brain stuff out of it. Take the it doesn't count stuff out of it. Purely stat sheet production. The amount of goals and assists that you have gotten from the signing, which is that is a big way that this stuff is measured, is stat sheet production. And if you want to go to the place of having to be like, well, actually his stats don't count because he doesn't do it against this team that I consider worthy or whatever. If you're just looking at the goals and assists that you've gotten out of it, that's a big way that I judge it. That's the way that people outside the fan base judge it. They were able to kind of ensure that they were going to get that production by targeting a player inside the league. I don't know. It's just something to think about. So true about Rusnak, every bit as good as Gazdag, but Gazdag gets more credit because he's from Rusnak is from MLS. They're pretty similar players, I think, in terms of what they bring and what they produce. But Gazdag he's the leading goal scorer all time for Philly, and that's why that's one where he hasn't looked like the Gazdag of Philly that he did in Columbus yet. I still think he will because we've seen him do it in the league. Philly Union's all-time leading goal scorer. You know what excites the fan base when you make a player acquisition that is able to help the team? Somebody like David Martinez for LAFC, U22 player, scoring goals and getting assists. David Martinez is an interesting one, though, because I would argue, I don't know, he is very exciting and he does some absolutely, we all saw the goal that he scored in Seattle this year. That was insane. But if you talk to any LAFC fan, they'll tell you he's been pretty inconsistent and has not actually moved the needle that much for them. He's been closer to the Leo Chu outcome than the Dejan Joveljic outcome. He's insanely talented. I think he's going to go to like Bayern Munich or something and probably be a great player. But if we're looking at like his actual on-field impact so far at MLS, it has been closer to Leo Chu than Dejan Joveljic. And any LAFC fan will tell you that. I would love a player like him on Seattle just because he is very exciting and he's fun to watch. But if we're talking about, let's see what he's got this year. Maybe I'm not. Maybe he's like come along in the last few weeks here, dude. All right, I'm just gonna show you guys this. This kind of illustrates my point. This is not that hot. For people listening to the audio, I got David Martinez's player page up. We're looking at 7 goals, 3 assists in 1,300 minutes, which is good. It's fine. It's not like setting the world on fire. This year he's played 939 minutes. He has 3 goals, 1 assist. That's sort of what I'm saying with this stuff, man. If they signed No Ohio, This is the most likely outcome right here for what it would look like. It's not guaranteed. Maybe it looks like Moose or like a really high level elite number 9 in the league. I don't know. But this is the most likely outcome for what No Ohio would actually give you. That's just the nature of these signings. And David Martinez is 100 times like the global pedigree thought of, like the way he's thought of as No Ohio. David Martinez is considered the best Venezuelan prospect of the last like decade or something. That he is being linked to clubs like Bayern Munich. Like I wasn't just pulling that out of nowhere. And he has struggled to get on the field in MLS and has 3 goals and 1 assist this year. His underlying numbers might look good, Jake, but if he was really crushing it, maybe it's a Steve C thing. I see what you're saying. And like the data like that does matter. But I think you do have to measure it of like what your actual output is, and then your effect on results and winning games. A player like this, the idea is that it's like you hope that he develops into a player that can be like a carry the load week in, week out producer for you. And he hasn't done that. He's had like really good moments and really good flashes that I'm sure resulted in good underlying data. That's fine. I'm a supporter of good underlying data. We talked about how it allowed Seattle to cook with the Moose signing. But at the end of the day, like if their output from David Martinez this year is 3 goals, 1 assist, what does it really matter? Like you want him to move the needle, like on the field every week. And maybe it's a situation, I don't know. Maybe it's a situation where Steve C is just suppressing him. But I will say, like, you know, I listen to and watch Happy Foot Sad Foot. Shout out Happy Foot Sad Foot. And when they talk about David Martinez, I'll just tell you, like, when they talk about David Martinez, usually the tenor of the conversation is like frustration. It's like, man, like you see these moments, but then it's like he disappears through portions of the game. He's just not impacting games like we wanted or hoped that he would when he got to the club with all this pedigree. He doesn't have more goal contribution. Well, current Leo Chu had 21 goal contributions in MLS. You know, I'm just saying. Let's do the Leo Chu comparison. Oh, God damn it. The stats pages are all messed up still. Leo Chu's stats are wrong. Let's pull up the transfer market. Leo Chu still listed at $2 million. Sorry. Trying to pull up his stats here. Let's compare. Let's compare. Leo Chu, 94 appearances for Seattle, 8 goals, 13 assists. That is not amazing, but it's not horrifyingly bad. I think he gets talked about as like a categorical bust a little more than he deserves. It wasn't like there wasn't stretches of good play. It wasn't like he never got on the stat sheet. Some of these U22s come to the league, they never get on the stat sheet. So, no, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Jake. Like, raw stat sheet production aside, a player like David Martinez is totally a player that I would love to see on the Seattle Sounders. I guess I'm just saying that like the actual on-field results and impact that you get from that are not always what you think or hope they would be based on that excitement. And I think Martinez is a good example. Like he's probably the highest ceiling, highest pedigree U22 that we've seen come into the league in terms of how he's like thought of globally. And he has 3 goals, 1 assist this year. And they were phenomenal goals. The goal he scored, the goal he scored in Seattle this year, I was like, I mean, that was one of the best individual runs I've ever seen on a soccer field. It was enthralling to watch for LAFC fans, I'm sure, even though they were losing 5-1 at the time. But like, it was sick. I would love to have a player just who can do that on the Sounders. But the hit rates, they're just not that. This is why I was when the No Ohio thing looks like it was actually going to happen, I was trying to temper my expectations for like the premise that he's like the missing piece that will put this good roster and make it into a great one and put the team over the top. That's the 100th percentile outcome. That's like, it's what you hope will happen. It just doesn't always pan out like that. It's inherently a low percentage game. All right, guys, I got to head out of here on that. That's going to do it for me this morning. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Kickoff, hanging out while I ran it solo for the last part of it there. If you could all do me a favor and please like the video. That's the most important thing you can do in your life right now, is like this video. Shout out to everyone who liked the post-game live last night. We pumped over 100 on that, which is what we love to see. Hopefully, let's get this to triple digits. I bet we can do it. If every single person who has yet to like the video that's watching right now does like the video, we will pump triple digits. So if you're not liking the video, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what are you doing? Like the video. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. Buy the hot sauce, lobbingscorchers.com/sauce. We will be back at it on Wednesday for our post-game live for what I think, this is the biggest game of the season, guys. This is the biggest game of the season. This is it for Leagues Cup right here. You win this game, you host a final. Don't get better. Even if it is a tournament that a lot of people say they don't care about. Regardless of that, this is for CONCACAF Champions Cup, and it's for a lot of money that they're not going to spend on transfers. But it is a lot of money. All right. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great rest of your Monday and the rest of your week.
Some people come to Lumen Field for the tactics, for the soccer, the atmosphere. And some come for Paul Rothrock's hair. Me personally, I come for both, because I have agendas to push. Live soccer isn't just better, it's way more personal. From making friends to becoming the guy in your section that's just constantly yelling about advanced statistics. Get tickets to any Sounders match by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/tickets. You support the pod, our agendas, the vibes, and the chaos.